So for section 1211, we have fireplaces and barbecues. So for this category, we need to consider 9 things. So first is the fireplace walls. So it shall not be less than 200 millimeters in thickness. Second is the hoods. It shall not be less than number 18 gauge copper, galvanized iron, or other equivalent corrosion-resistant ferrous metal, with all seams and connections of smoke-proof and soldered construction. So the hood shall be sloped at an angle of 45 degrees or less from the vertical and shall extend horizontally at least 150 millimeters beyond the limits of the firebox. So third is the circulators. So approved metal heat circulators may be installed in fireplaces. So next is the smoke chamber. So front and side walls shall not be less than 200 millimeters in thickness, while the back walls shall not be less than 150 millimeters in thickness. Next is the fireplace chimney. So walls of the chimney with flue lining shall not be less than 200 millimeters in thickness, while the others is it will be less than 100 millimeters in thickness and shall be constructed in accordance with the requirement of the code. So for the clearance of combustible materials, it shall not be less than 50 millimeters of fireplace, smoke chamber, or chimney walls when built entirely within a structure. Otherwise, it will be 25 millimeters when it is outside the structure. So combustible material shall not be placed within 150 millimeters of the fireplace opening. Next is the area of flues, throats, and dampers. So the net cross-sectional area of the flue and the throat between the firebox and the smoke chamber of a fireplace shall not be less than the requirements to be set forth by the Secretary. Where dampers are used, they shall not be less than the number 12 gauge metal. When fully opened, the damper opening shall not be less than 90% of the required flue area. When fully opened, damper blade shall not extend beyond the line of the inner face of the flue. Next, we have the lintel. So masonry over the fireplace opening shall be supported by a non-combustible lintel. And lastly, for the hearth. Every fireplace shall be provided with a brick, concrete, stone, or other approved non-combustible hearth slab at least 300 millimeters wider on each side than fireplace opening and projecting at least 450 millimeters therefrom. This slab shall not be less than 100 millimeters thick and shall be supported by a non-combustible material or reinforced to carry its own weight and all imposed loads. So for section 1212 fire extinguishing systems, we have the requirement of every story, basement, or cellar with an area of 200 square meters or more, which is used for habitation, recreation, dining, study, or work, and which has an occupant load of more than 20. So for section 1213, stages and platform, we have stage ventilators. There shall be one or more ventilators constructed of metal or other incombustible materials near the center and above the highest part of any working stage and shall conform to the following requirements. So the first requirement is the opening action. So ventilators shall open by spring action or force of gravity. Next is the glass. If used in ventilators, it must be protected against falling on the stage. Next is the design. Ventilators, penthouses, and supporting framework shall be designed in accordance with the code. So the fourth one is the spring actuation. Springs, when employed to actuate ventilator doors, shall be capable of maintaining full required tension indefinitely. So for the location of the fusible links, placed in the cable control system on the underside of the ventilator at or above the roofline or as approved by the building official. So for control, we have remote, manual, or electrical control shall be provided for both opening and closing of the ventilator doors for periodic testing and shall be located at a point on the stage designated by the building official. So next is the gridirons. Gridirons, fly galleries, and pin rails shall be constructed of incombustible materials, and fire protection of steel and iron may be omitted. So the main counterweight sheave beam shall be designed to support the horizontal and vertical uniformly distributed live load, sufficient to accommodate the weight of imposed by the total number of load blocks in the gridirons. So, for the rooms accessory to stage, the dressing room sections, workshop, and storeroom shall be located at the stage side of the proscenium wall and shall be separated from each other by not less than 1 hour fire-resistive occupancy separation. For the proscenium walls, a stage shall be completely separated from the auditorium by the proscenium walls, which is not less than 2 hour incombustible construction. So for stage floor, all parts of the stage floor shall be designed to support not less than 620 kilograms per square meters. Opening through the stage floor shall be equipped with tight-fitting trapdoors of wood or not less than 50 millimeters of nominal thickness. So for platforms, enclosed platforms shall be provided with one or more ventilators conforming to the requirement of stage ventilators. So, it shall not be required for enclosed platforms having a floor area of 45 square meters or less. So lastly, for the stage exits, at least one exit not less than 900 millimeters wide shall be provided from each side of the stage opening. So exits there not less than 750 millimeters shall be the stairs required in this subsection needed to be enclosed. So for section 1215, lathing, plastering, and installation of wall boards, so the installation of flat plasters and gypsum wall boards shall conform to the fire resistive rating requirements and the type of construction of building. So let us move on to Rule 8, Electrical and Mechanical Regulations. Section 1301, Electrical Regulations. So all electrical system equipment and installations mentioned in the code shall conform to the provisions of Philippine Electrical Code Part 1 or PEC 1 and Part 2 or PEC 2 as adopted by the Board of Electrical Engineering pursuant to Republic Act 7920, otherwise known as the Philippine Electrical Engineering Law. So for section 1301, the first one is the overhead service entrance. So in subdivisions, housing projects, commercial and industrial buildings, overhead transmission and distribution voltages are required to supply power, including the transformers, posts, and supporting structures. So in attachment on clearance from buildings, an attachment plan approved by a professional electrical engineer shall cover power lines and cables, transformer, and other electrical equipment installed or in buildings and shall be submitted to the local building officials. Second is the attachment on clearance from buildings. Where buildings exceed 15 meters in height, overhead lines shall be arranged where practicable so that clear space or zone at least 1.8 meters horizontally will be left adjacent to the building and beginning not over 2.45 meters horizontal from the building. To facilitate the raising of ladders where necessary for firefighting. The third one is the open supply conductors attached to buildings, where the permanent attachment of open supply conductors to any class of buildings is necessary for service entrance. Such as conductors shall meet the following requirements. So the third one is the open supply conductors attached to buildings. So conductors of more than 300 volts to ground shall not be carried along or near the surface of the building unless they are guarded or made inaccessible. To promote safety to the general public and to employees not authorized to approach conductors, such parts shall be arranged so as to provide adequate clearance from the ground or other space generally accessible, or shall be provided with guards so as to isolate persons effectively from accidental contact. Undergrounded service conduits, metal fixtures, and similar non-current carrying parts, if located in urban districts and were liable to become charged to more than 300 volts to ground, shall be isolated or guarded. So service drops passing over a roof shall be securely supported by substantial structures where practicable. Such support shall be independent of the building.